My name is Jessica Williams. I'm 31 years old, and 3 months ago, I inherited $12 million from my grandmother. I went from being an ordinary teacher living in Chicago to becoming a millionaire overnight. But instead of telling my family, I decided to test them first. I told them I lost my job and asked each family member for help. Only one person offered to help me, and it wasn't who I expected. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're from and subscribe to see how money reveals people's true colors in ways that shocked even me. Because this story will show you that sometimes the biggest betrayal comes from those closest to you. But real family might be waiting for you in completely different places. Jessica lived in a small studio apartment in Lincoln Park, south of Chicago, and worked as a third-grade teacher at Washington Elementary School. With an annual salary of $45,000, Jessica struggled to make ends meet each month. However, she loved her job, and working with children was her passion. Jessica's family was a typical middle-class American family. Her mother, Margaret Williams, was a retired nurse, and her father, Robert Williams, was a retired police officer. She had two siblings, her older brother, Michael, 34, who worked for an insurance company in Boston. Her younger sister, Sarah, was 28 and worked for a marketing firm in Denver. The relationships between family members had always been complicated. Margaret and Robert were enjoying their retirement in Florida, playing golf, going on cruise vacations, and enjoying their golden years. Michael lived in a luxury home in Boston with his wife Jennifer and two children, earning $120,000 annually through his insurance company. Sarah was focused on climbing the career ladder at her Denver marketing firm, putting her career above everything else. Despite earning $85,000 annually, she was constantly chasing more money and better positions. Jessica was the family's underachiever. Because of her teaching profession, she was constantly seen as low paid, and at family gatherings, she always faced questions like, when will she get married? When will she find a better job? Grandmother Eleanor Williams was the only stable and supportive figure in Jessica's life. The 85-year-old Eleanor lived in Chicago and visited Jessica once a week. Eleanor had operated a textile factory in her youth and had accumulated significant wealth over the years through smart investments. However, due to her modest lifestyle, the rest of the family didn't know how wealthy she was. Last year, Grandmother Eleanor suddenly died of a heart attack. Jessica took over the funeral arrangements because her parents were in Florida and her siblings lived in their own cities. During the funeral, family members came together, but everyone was eager to return to their own lives. A week after the funeral, Eleanor's lawyer, David Mitchell, called Jessica and invited her to his office. Jessica thought her grandmother might have left a small inheritance of perhaps a few $1,000s. That week in Lawyer Mitchell's office changed Jessica's life forever. Eleanor Williams had left her entire fortune to Jessica, $12 million in cash, stocks, and real estate investments. Your grandmother was a very smart investor, said Lawyer Mitchell. For 40 years, she carefully invested every penny. She also left you a letter. Eleanor's letter brought tears to Jessica's eyes. Dear Jessica, you are the only person in the family who values money not for money's sake, but to help others. Your teaching profession may not have made you wealthy financially, but it has enriched your character. I'm leaving this money to you because I trust you'll do the right things with it. But be careful. Money reveals people's true faces. I know very well how our family has treated you. I hope this inheritance opens their eyes and makes them treat you with the respect you deserve. Jessica was bewildered by this unexpected wealth. $12 million was an unimaginable amount for her. Her first instinct was to immediately share this news with her family. She wanted to call her parents to give them the good news, to share this happiness with her siblings. But her grandmother's warning in the letter wouldn't leave her mind. Money reveals people's true faces. Jessica began thinking about her family's past treatment of her. The belittling comments made at every family gathering, the "when will she quit teaching" questions, the "find a good husband and settle down" advice. Did her family really love her, or were they just showing tolerance? These questions began to occupy Jessica's mind, and finally, she made a radical decision. She would test her family. When Jessica discussed this with her closest friend Lisa Chen, Lisa thought this decision made sense. "You know, Jessica," said Lisa, "I've been observing how your family treats you for years. Maybe you really need to test them. At least you'll understand who is real family and who is just a relative." Jessica carefully prepared her test plan. The job loss scenario would be most convincing because many teachers had actually lost their jobs after the COVID-19 pandemic. Her story was, her position at school had been eliminated due to budget constraints. She had started receiving unemployment benefits, but this money wasn't enough to cover rent and basic needs. Additionally, she was in financial trouble due to grandmother's funeral expenses and unexpected health costs. Jessica would call each family member and ask for $3,000 in help. This amount wasn't too large, but also wasn't small enough to be given instantly. Those who really wanted to help could find it, and those who didn't want to help could use it as an excuse. During the test process, Jessica secretly recorded phone conversations. She wanted to analyze not only her family members' reactions, but also the tone in their voices, the words they used, and the answers they gave. Jessica first called her mother. Margaret was at the golf course in Florida, so she answered her phone a bit late. "Mom, I need to tell you I'm in trouble," Jessica began with a trembling voice. "What happened, honey?" said Margaret, but it was clear from her tone that she was bothered. Jessica told the story she had prepared. She lost her job, her money ran out, she needed $3,000. Margaret's first reaction was, "Oh, Jessica, how terrible. But, honey, your father and I spent a lot when we moved to Florida. Our new house, new furniture, and now we bought your father a golf membership. We're really tight." "Mom, just for a short time. I'll pay it back as soon as I find a new job." "Honey, maybe you should ask Michael. He's much better off. Or Sarah. Both of them earn much more than you do." Jessica ended the conversation heartbroken. Her mother hadn't offered her a single cent in help. Worse, she had directed her to her siblings. When she called her older brother Michael, he was also going to his children's football practice. "Jessica, I'm really sorry to hear about your situation, but we have a lot of expenses right now. Tommy's orthodontic treatment, MS piano lessons. Jennifer and I are trying to organize our budget. Michael, $3,000 would really be a lifesaver." "Sister, I wish I could help. But Jennifer does very strict budgeting. Maybe I can send $200, $300, but more than that is impossible right now." Even Michael hadn't given full support to his sister's difficult situation. He had offered $200, but even this was said reluctantly. When she called her youngest sister Sarah, Sarah said she was in a business meeting and wanted to cut the conversation short. "Sarah, I'm really in trouble," said Jessica. "Jessica, I'm very busy right now. I have a big project presentation in Denver this week. Maybe we can talk later." Jessica insisted and explained her situation. Sarah's answer was cold and practical. "Jessica, I'm very sorry you're in this difficult situation, but I'm also dealing with living expenses in Denver right now. Rent prices are very high, my car broke down, I need to buy a new laptop for work. Maybe I can send $100, but that's all." $100. That's how much Sarah valued Jessica. Jessica also called her Uncle Jim. Jim's answer was clear and merciless. "Jessica, everyone has tough times. You chose to be a teacher, and I told you it wouldn't be easy. Maybe it's time to switch to a better paying job." The answer she got from her Aunt Linda was similar. "Honey, we have our own expenses too. Maybe you could apply for a loan." Jessica called a total of 8 family members. None of them offered her real help. The highest offer was $200 from Michael, and that was reluctant. Overwhelmed by the test process, Jessica was crying on the apartment stairs when her downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Elena Rodriguez, saw her. Mrs. Rodriguez was a 65-year-old retired cleaning worker living on a very modest retirement pension. "Mija, what happened? Why are you crying?" asked Mrs. Rodriguez. Jessica began explaining her situation. Mrs. Rodriguez listened carefully. "¿Cuánto necesitas? How much do you need?" she asked. $3,000. But Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm not asking you for money, I just needed to talk." The next day, Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on Jessica's door. She had an envelope in her hand. "Mija, this is all my savings, $2,800. I know it's not $3,000, but it's all I can do. You're a good person. You teach children. God protects you." Jessica was shocked. Mrs. Rodriguez had given her all her retirement savings. While none of her family members had made such a sacrifice, her neighbor had offered all her money. Jessica realized it was time to end the test. She had to tell Mrs. Rodriguez the truth. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I have to tell you something important. I didn't really lose my job. This was a test, and I inherited $12 million from my grandmother." Mrs. Rodriguez looked at Jessica in astonishment. "But why did you do such a thing, mija?" "Because I wanted to see how my family has been treating me for years, and I wanted to learn who my real family is." Jessica returned all the money to Mrs. Rodriguez and added, "You showed me what real family means. This money is yours. I'm just going to give you double this, $5,000 as a thank you." Mrs. Rodriguez hugged Jessica with tears in her eyes. Jessica organized a Zoom meeting with her family, parents, Michael, Sarah, Uncle Jim, and Aunt Linda. Everyone was included. "I want to tell you something very important," Jessica began. "When I called all of you last week asking for financial help, I was just testing. I didn't really lose my job, and Grandmother Eleanor left me $12 million. The expression change on the faces on the screen was dramatic. First shock, then shame, then greed. $12 million? Said Michael. "That's impossible. Grandmother was never rich." "Whether she was rich or not didn't matter to you," said Jessica. "But the only important thing about me for you is how much money I can give you." Margaret went into defense mode. "Jessica, what do you mean test? This is very unfair. We really thought you were in trouble." "And when you thought I was in trouble, how much help did you give me? Mom, you didn't even offer $200. Michael, you reluctantly said $200. Sarah, $100. Uncle Jim, nothing. Aunt Linda, nothing." "But now it's different," Sarah said immediately. "Of course we'll help you now. We're family after all." "Now? Did we become family when you learned about the $12 million? Robert, her father, intervened. "Jessica, you need to manage this money wisely. Maybe we can help you too." Jessica laughed. "Dad, last week you said you were tight. Now are you comfortable enough to give me financial advice?" Jessica ended the meeting with these words. "This test showed me that real family is formed not by blood ties, but by heart ties. Mrs. Rodriguez offered me all her retirement savings. You, on the other hand, didn't show me real interest until you learned I was rich. Let me tell you how I'll use the money. I'll establish an education fund with part of it. I'll help teachers and students in need. I'll use part of it to help real good people like Mrs. Rodriguez, and I'll use part of it for myself, but none of you will get a share of this." Margaret started crying. "Jessica, we know we hurt you, but we're your family." "Family is people you stand by in their difficult times," said Jessica, "not people who come to you after learning you're rich." Before closing the meeting, Jessica added, If you want to fix our relationship, know that this won't be about money. You need to genuinely apologize and change your behavior. Money wasn't the only thing I hid from you. Apparently, I needed to earn your respect, too. 6 months later, Jessica was living the life she had dreamed of. She was still teaching because it was her passion, but she no longer experienced financial stress. Her friendship with Mrs. Rodriguez had grown stronger, and she saw her as real family. Some family members eventually gave genuine apologies. Some continued their money-focused approaches. Jessica established relationships with each one according to her own terms. Most importantly, Jessica now knew that her worth was not tied to the presence of money, but to her character. And she had learned that real family meant those who supported you in your most difficult moments. Money is a tool, Jessica concludes, one of the most powerful tools you can use to get to know people. But the real power is in who you share that money with and how you use it. I made my choice. I chose to be with real family. Thank you for watching this story. Have you ever had such an experience? Have you lived moments when money showed people's true faces? Share in the comments and don't forget to hit the like button if this video touched you. See you in the next video.